Yeah, Kirsten watched Bridgerton, which is like sex books for middle-aged women. They are. She read them in high school.
I have come on a mission of gravest consequence. For I am the Watcher, member of an ancient race far older than man. But though our power is great, we are pledged only to watch, never to interfere. But now mankind faces the greatest danger it has ever known. The danger of
the Watchers of Earth. 199,999.
Welcome to the Watchers of Earth 26,320. I am your host, Andrew, and joining me as always is my co-host, Seth.
Blood for the Blood God.
Skull for the Skull Throne. Our third co-host, Joe, couldn't be here today because he's ice skating uphill, and our fourth co-host, Uatu, is here, but he has sworn
Because he's ice skating downhill.
only to day watch and never day interfere.
That was a good one.
Was it?
Yeah, no, it was.
Okay, cool. I didn't like it, but all right.
Well, today we watched... I almost said episode. Today we watched Blade. Is it Blade or is it Bloody?
I think it's Blade.
Blade. It's like French for blood or something.
Mm-hmm.
Which originally premiered August 21st, 1998. Andrew, a half vampire. Well, you're a full vampire, but the thing is, a half vampire, half mortal man becomes a protector of the mortal race while slaying evil vampires. He keeps the good ones alive, I think, going off of this. Apparently, muting Discord didn't mute anything. It's still going off in my ear. Anyways, fuck this noise. Mute. Why won't it mute? It says mute. Do I have to... Okay. Anyways, hopefully it... Fuck! Whatever. Why is it doing this?
You doing okay over there?
No.
You take all the time you need.
Good, because you did. I'm more impressed at the fact that regardless of what time we sit down, you're always like, by the way, I know we planned this out, but I'm going to take an hour-long phone call. But anyways, okay, I muted the wrong one the first time, but now I muted the right one. Today we watched Blade, which originally premiered August 21st, 1998, in which a half-vampire, half-mortal man becomes a protector of the mortal race while slaying evil vampires. No bits in that one. All the bits went into the first one that I scrapped because of crap. Andrew, in a sentence or less. Oh, it was If You Cared. It was written by David S. Goyer of Dark Knight fame, if you remember, and another movie fame, if I forgot, and directed by Stephen Norrington. So in a sentence or less, Andrew, what'd you think?
It was fine. It was aggressively late 90s cool in a way that was neither bad or good. It was just fine. It was a little long, but part of that was me just wanting to make sure that I got it done before. Like, if we had started recording before everything, then I would have just, like, pushed everything back, but...
Well, it is 2 hours. I mean, that's long.
Yeah, but it honestly didn't feel long until the final, like, right before the final act. I was just like, we gotta be almost done. And then they had to do their whole blood ceremony and everything. I was just like, I don't care. Just get to the fight and end. But anyway, what'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was long. I mean, it's fine. Late 90s action is weird for me because I don't know if it's just something that, like, I've been through it. And so now I just, like, I mean, I say this on all these episodes, but, like, I just don't watch these movies for, like, fun anymore. Like, I just watch different things in my free time. But late 90s has a weird line where they're having fun making movies, which is great. But I, like, can't tell, like, is this supposed to be stupid? And I think the answer is kind of yes.
I think they know that it's silly and they're having fun with it, but I think it is supposed to be, I don't think it's supposed to be like, this is a little silly and stupid. I think this is supposed to be like, we know it's silly, but also it's badass. Like, I think it is more supposed to be badass and cool than silly.
But late 90s badass is like skirting a fine line between silly.
Absolutely.
And
but I think this is very I think it is aware of what it is, but I don't think it is like, I don't think there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek here.
In the way that, I mean, in the way that a cheesy action one-liner is serious. Again, I think it's having fun, but I mean, I agree that it's an action movie over like a comedy or anything like that, but it's always a weird fine line of just like, do they know that this is like kind of stupid? But it's fine. I think it's long, and I think like when Whistler dies is when I was thinking, okay, this is like
This is wrapping up any moment now.
Yeah, like then like the next scene is going to be him like defeating the bad guy, right? And I don't know when it is, but I was just kind of thinking when Whistler died, I was like, this feels like a halfway point, and then the next hour is like revenge fantasy. And I don't know if that was necessarily true. I think it moved a little bit quicker after that, but I think that's when I started kind of being like, okay, how much longer do we got to do? It also doesn't help that much like comedy movies, that I'm just like, comedy movies are like an hour and a half long, and like no more, no less, because jokes don't last that long. A lot of these 90s action movies, I'm just like, 2-hour movies didn't exist back then. And then I look at them like, oh no, they did. And they didn't know what to do with them. But anyways, that's my sentence and more.
But before we jump in, but just so that we don't sit in a segment and I can put my cut in there. I will say, I think it's paced okay for the most part. Like, it's not Sam Raimi's Spider-Man long, where it's just, like, full of long, unnecessary... Like, I feel like it's kind of to the point. Hey-oh, vampires. They got pointy teeth, and they get sticky sticks in their chest.
I think it's because there's kind of less of a story than Spider-Man.
That's true, but it is very, very aggressively an action movie.
It's just kind of like
there for the set pieces, and then there's just enough story to make sure that there's like a reason to continue watching for a conclusion.
Yeah,
but yeah, it starts off with his birth, right?
Yeah,
and then it immediately jumps to that, and I spent a good chunk of the movie wondering if they ever explained what his deal was. I mean, they do around the halfway point, but I spent the whole like first half before they got to that going like, did they explain his deal? And I just missed it because it was never clear if he had powers. It was never clear if he was a vampire or anything. He just like fought a bunch of them and was good at it. And then when he's in the subway with her, he's like, I gotta inject myself with this blood serum. And then she's like, what are you? And he's like, I'm not a vampire. I'm something else. And then like she goes to Whistler and he's like, here's his origin.
So, you've seen this, right?
I don't think I have. I may have.
I've seen it, but like Blade.
I'm aware of Blade, although I also know that he's very different from the original Blade, and I know like the original like 60s Blade was not a Dhampir, like a half-blood.
Yeah.
He was just like immune.
Mm-hmm.
His mother may have been bitten by a vampire and that made him immune. I don't remember the details. And he wore that weird green and yellow costume with the goggles, or green and orange. But I was aware of that, but I looked him up just to kind of see what his deal was, and I found out that apparently, I don't know if this is actually where it started, but the Wikipedia page says that the modern idea of Blade came from this movie, and before this movie, the Spider-Man animated series where he shows up and he's a daywalker.
I didn't know that. And I kind of looked through those trivia stuff too.
The other interesting thing from this is at the end of his initial like paragraph on Wikipedia, it says he is also the father of Fallon Gray. And I went, huh. And the name was hyperlinked. So I was like, I wonder who that is. You click it, it just takes you back to the Blade page.
Yeah.
I Googled who that was, and that's a very interesting thing to put on that Wikipedia page because Fallon Gray is a character that does not exist.
Do you think it's like a fan fiction character?
No, it was a character that was proposed during the Marvel like reboot thing. What was it called? All New, All Different relaunch. He was going to get a new book, and Fallon Gray was his daughter. And it was supposed to be this thing where they had this whole story planned, and it ultimately got scrapped. And as far as I can tell, like I was reading a couple articles on it, it never came to be. But it's weird that it is thrown in that like introductory paragraph on him for a character that literally does not exist. She's never made it. She was pitched as an idea. She was thrown out there. Tim Seeley was supposed to write it.
I do remember. Yeah, I guess I remember reading that in like a trivia thing. On
some
IMDb.
people were upset that this black character was being written by a white man, and then he ultimately decided to write and step down, but Marvel never went forward with the idea anyway with a new writer.
Yeah.
And then she just never came to be, which I just thought was interesting.
I do remember reading that now, yeah. But no, I asked that just because, and not that the movie has to be like, movies can be different than the IPs or whatever, but I guess
they can't.
I went in just being like, Blade's...
I'm a man baby. I want to see the things I know.
I just kind of went in going, Blade's vampire man baby, and... Got it. My big hang up was that I was just like, when he like saves Karen or whatever, or rescues Karen, and then she wakes up and she looks like his home, and he still has like his mom's driver's license and all this stuff. And I was just like, how does this dude know his mom? I mean, she didn't die, but I guess, and maybe it's never really explicitly explained, but he was homeless. Like his mom didn't raise him. Like, why would they know each other? You know what I mean? That's kind of where I got hung up on.
I don't know. Again, it's so aggressively an action movie. Like, I will say, while there is an origin in here, it's not an origin movie for a superhero. It's barely a superhero movie. It's very to the point. My thing that I got kind of hung up on is because it's the badass modern vampire movie where vampire hunting is cool and it's so so sexy
Not
and
stupid.
cool.
Not
not
nerdy
dumb.
Van Helsing.
When they're like, crosses are dumb and lame, God's stupid, so crosses don't do anything to vampires, you idiot. But garlic does, and we inject garlic directly into their veins, and they have like an allergic reaction because of science. And I was like, this is stupid, but I'm fine. Like, whatever. You want to make your weird science vampires? That's fine. But then the end of the movie is literally magic. At that point, just do the fucking cross thing. Or don't. Like, I guess I don't care, but it's just, I did not like the magic ending, where they're like, now we're gonna summon the blood god, and then I turn into like a blood vampire man who can't be killed because I just like reform myself with my blood. I'm so magical and cool. And I was like, where was all this magic earlier? You guys were just like, we had a scene where she talks about how like a vampire is just like a genetic mutation and they have all this, we can cure them with science. And then later on, they're like, but now we're magical. Whee! There's lightning everywhere. Fucking dumb.
I guess I didn't have a problem with it. Mainly because all the science crap is so gobbledygook anyways, and I'm just like, it's magic science, whatever. I think the movie pitches and wants it to be a science vampire. But I don't necessarily know if I cared that the ending being magical was, kind of weirdly juxtaposed with the rest of the movie. Especially when you do see, you can science wave it, but you do see a man, disintegrate in the sun. And, regarding the cross thing and garlic and crap like that, I have a soft spot. I love, modern tellings of folklore stories of, vampires and werewolves and stuff like that, where people are familiar with the stories, but they're not quite true. They're all kind of hearsay and just urban legends and stuff like that. And I love the discovery of just you don't have discovery in this one, but I love the quote unquote world building of just some of these things aren't necessarily true and they're just kind of stories. This doesn't matter. They can cross water, they can enter homes uninvited, but they're still weak to silver. That stuff's fun for me. And honestly, I was reading when I was reading the trivia and stuff. So the whole thing about them not being weak to crosses is less about God's dead and he's stupid. It's more do crosses just not work on Jewish vampires? Can vampires just not be other religions? And then what? The Star of David is now evil to vampires or something? And I guess I like that kind of stuff. It's small little twists and turns. And as the horrible man who wrote Chronicle, that I can't remember his name, said, vampires don't exist. You can do whatever you want.
I guess my thing is it's similar to the Marvel muck crap, where I like the puzzle of taking all these disparate elements and trying to make sense of them in a cohesive world. And so I kind of like you said, when you take mythology and then you reinterpret it with a modern view and say okay, this is how, back in the day they didn't have this technology, this is how it would work now, or this is how this legend started and it morphed into this. I find that stuff interesting as a puzzle, but this movie doesn't do that.
No, it doesn't. And
again, it goes crossing water is stupid because that's kind of magical. Reflections are stupid because that can't be explained very well by science. It's magical. And a lot of it was it felt like it was going we are only acknowledging what is scientifically accurate.
And then at the end, they're just but this, there's blood geyser people.
Then it's blood god. The other thing is again, it's trying to go we go with science and stuff, but then they literally inject them with garlic, which is so fucking stupid. It is so stupid. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of love how stupid that is. When they're gonna try and cure the girl who was bitten, whose name I never caught, but she's there for the entirety of the movie.
Karen, the doctor lady?
Yeah.
I had to look that up because at the end I was just did she have a name?
They said it a couple times, but I never remembered it. But
never did either.
When he's just I'm gonna inject, he tells her the scientific name of whatever he's injecting her with. He's yada yada yada, it's garlic, and then he injects her with just garlic juice. And I was that is so fucking stupid, and I kind of love it. But then on that end, I love it in a world where we acknowledge how everything is stupid. Go full magic, but it doesn't until the end.
Yeah, I understand your plight. And I probably would have liked more magic stuff in it, but like I said, I was too enamored with being some of these things are urban legendy and not necessarily true. Whereas you kind of looked at that and been so they're getting rid of all the magic stuff. Whereas I was just it's just that's not all true. I do wish that there would have been more magic stuff throughout. And maybe that's kind of my problem a little bit, is that I did go into this just being like I said, they did their science jargon for science fiction vampires. And I was just yeah, I get it. They're fantasy vampires. And the movie's no, they're science fantasy. Yeah, fantasy, got it. And I just ignored it, I guess.
The first action bit is that blood rave, which is the like 90th thing I've ever seen.
Movie opening.
It's aggressively stupid. It's aggressively badass. I kind of had fun with it. It's nonsensical where they're like squirting blood from the sprinklers because it's like a cool effect. It's like looks neat. It's like, look at all these vampires dancing around in blood. And I know that like there's not really a good 1-for-1 because all they eat is blood, but it seems weird. Like they were just like, and now we spray Gatorade from the stuff. We all love Gatorade so much. It's just like, why would you want to be covered in this? This is so weird and gross.
Because there's science fiction.
And there's like puddles all over the floor. I'm like, are they going to lap it up later? Like,
there's a lot of blood on the floor.
Yeah, like, don't they want that blood?
That dude's name, by the way, in the credits is Heat Seeker Daniel. Because at the beginning, how about that little laugh? Because at the beginning, Tracy Lords is like, what you got there? And he's like, it's a heat-seeking missile. And then she like grabs it and he's like, hoo-hoo. But like, what is the purpose here? Okay, so Tracy Lords brings this dude into a club that it seems like her role is to bring food to the club.
That's what I was thinking, but then I was like, they're literally just like spraying blood everywhere. What is the fucking point?
But then like, because like he gets there and everyone is already, why would they, I mean, I guess you can smell vampires and so they can smell that he's not vampires, but everybody kind of treats him like shit. And then the sprinklers go off and I mean, I guess he gives himself up when he's just like, oh no, blood is spraying. Why isn't anybody caring that blood is spraying from the ceiling? And then everyone is just like, I guess we're going to attack him and eat him. And that was like the plan, but there's like 1 million people there.
Yeah.
And there's 1 million blood there. And then there's like this dude here. Who cares? It's all just there to be badass.
Yeah, it's just there to be like, it's a blood rave. It's so cool. Like, Blade has to save someone, and we have to see how dangerous they are. So we have to throw someone in danger for Blade to save. And it's just... Also, like, during this fight, it's the first point where I was a little confused. The rules on vampires are also very inconsistent.
I don't know if it's the rules that are inconsistent, or just the use of CGI and the CGI budget.
Well, like, Blade says later that, like, they can heal, they can regenerate. If you, like, cut off a limb, they'll grow it back or whatever. And he's like, you gotta go for the head, otherwise they'll just grow back.
The head or the heart?
But there are multiple times where he just, like, cuts people in half or whatever, and then they just, like, disintegrate.
But he has special silver sword, like Geralt.
There are, like, so many people just, like, disintegrating all over the place.
Only in the first, only in the nightclub scene. And, like, once later in the movie. But then he kills a bunch of vampires, and they're just like, who cares? We don't have the budget. We have to save it for Blood Geyser, man.
That one guy, he's like, hey, I tried chopping you up before and it didn't take, so now I'm going to set you on fire. And I was like, I don't know, he's right there. Like, you can just cut off his head. Mm-hmm. Because then he shows back up and he's like, when the cops come and they take that guy's charred corpse to the hospital, or to the morgue, and then Blade shows up and he's like, I'm here to finish you off. And I was like, you had multiple opportunities. Why did you set fire to him? It's to show how aggressively they can heal and for, like, the little shock of him coming back to life and everything. So it's like to show off vampire powers from a movie standpoint.
Yeah, dead doesn't mean dead.
But from, like, a monster hunting standpoint, like, I don't know, Blade, you're real stupid. You should have just stabbed him in his head when you had the chance, or his heart, or cut his head off, or whatever. Like, you had multiple opportunities. He was pinned to a wall, and instead you decided to set him on fire because it would be cool.
It was cool, though. I will also say, speaking of cool, that whether or not it was a conscious decision, or it was just by happenstance, I think it was really good for Blade's first, like, fight scene. He is in a black trench coat, but everybody else is covered in red, so you know, like, where
I was going to say
is,
that, too.
You know who the villains are. Then he kills everybody, and, like, the vampires come in with black
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Like,
I was going to say that before when I was talking about how stupid it all was, and then I got obsessed with how stupid it all was. But I was thinking the same thing. It is very, very... I think the action in this movie is not that great. It's a little...
You recently watched Matrix, which is pretty much the same movie.
Matrix is better.
And I was going to say, yeah, I mean, Matrix came out, what, like a year later?
I think the same year. I think this was 1999 and Matrix was 1999.
So I wasn't sure if this action was just, like, of the times, or if this was kind of light for the times.
I felt like there were a lot of close-up camera shots. There was a lot of, like, I was never having trouble really, like, necessarily telling what was going on, but it was never, like, clear enough to really see how cool anything was. It was just kind of, like, tight camera shots or, like, quick cuts, and maybe I'm spoiled nowadays by a lot of, like, you know, it's a big thing nowadays in action movies to have the big, long, like, one-shot action scene.
Yeah. And
so I might be spoiled a bit by that. I just thought the action was not very good. Not bad either. Completely serviceable. There's some good moments. In the end, he does a lot of flipping, and...
There's a lot of weird, goofy flipping, like wire...
There's that one point at the end, though, where he and another guy just, like, kick at each other's faces and keep
They
whipping.
miss! It's stupid.
I know, it's so stupid. But you could tell it was supposed to be badass.
Yeah, it was like, oh, like they're so evenly matched that they're just like dodging and kicking at the same time. And I'm like, no, they're both just missing. They're both just
It
like...
is so stupid.
There's a lot of weird... I mean, I guess weird's not the right term, but I needed an adjective there. There's a lot of just like throwing people into things.
Mhm.
Like the cop in the apartment, he just like throws him into crap, and then
There's a part where she's like, is that really necessary? And I was like, yeah, he is like smashing up all your
breaking
stuff.
all our tables and stuff. Oh boy. Yeah, I don't know. Other than the fact that they just ran out of CGI budget, and I guess like, ooh, like they're dead doesn't mean dead, but yeah, I mean, Blade is a terrible vampire hunter since his stuff doesn't work all. I don't understand. Okay,
There is so much of this movie that is aggressively just there to be cool.
Mhm.
Setting him on fire and just standing there is supposed to be cool. Blade chucking the doctor out the window onto another building where she hits a couple, like a tarp
she's
and a couple
already
cardboard.
injured. Like he has to carry her, and he just throws her out the window, and she just like smashes into crap. All the times. So in that whole same scene, after he then jumps out of the window and like picks her up and runs to his little hideout entrance, I guess, or whatever it was.
And 600 cops show up and just start firing wildly at him and her.
But there's this time, like, I know that everyone sat down and said, okay, like, here's like a little firefight scene. So you need to like protect her, and you know you're trying to get into this building thing, but you need to protect her. And he's going, okay, well, like just standing there and protecting her is stupid. It's badass if I just do a bunch of spins and pirouettes.
Yes.
And like he just kind of like jumps and spins in the air to like get around her instead of just doing the sane thing and just
There's
like hold on.
a couple bits where he like spins around and it's a little silly and stupid looking. He also at least twice does that thing with his sword where he like scrapes on the ground and then like holds it in front of him and like twists it.
Mm-hmm. Like he's doing the killing blow to the concrete.
Yeah.
The vampire concrete. Yeah, his sword doesn't make any sense because, again...
I was surprised that it had a use. It wasn't just a thing that was like, no one can pick up his sword because it's so cool. And then at the end, the big boss picks it up and he's like, I know all your secrets, so I know how to turn off your sword for some reason because I can just say I know all the things. And then the answer seems to be because I know your mom, as if she knows about your fucking stupid
sword,
tech sword that...
She doesn't know exists.
It's whatever, but it is put to use at the end when he, like, it's not good, it's stupid, but he, like, chucks it at the wall, and then it's like, you forgot about my timer, that's gonna make it go, and it's gonna break out my... jumping around. I thought it was going to be more of a thing when Frost looks at his magic explodey serum and goes, this is your magic make you not crave blood serum. Ooh, I bet you want to eat some of this. And I thought at some point he was going to inject himself or inject somebody. But like,
I didn't need to see it, honestly. I actually thought it was effective when he's like, this is your blood serum thing. And you're like, ooh, like he doesn't know what this is. And then Blade's like, well,
no, I know, but it doesn't matter that he doesn't know. It doesn't matter at all that he doesn't know. That's where my problem is. Because he chucks it aside and I was like, okay, obviously the woman or Blade, what's her name, Karen? Or Blade is going to get a hold of it later. But I thought, like, at the end, I thought he was going to be like, I'm going to inject myself with your serum and it's going to make me even more powerful. Because it's not like he doesn't care that Blade throws it at him. And I guess he doesn't care because he doesn't think it's going to do anything to him. But it's also like, he's not going to stop. He's not able to stop it either. Blade's chucking it at him right in front of him. And it's no different than if Blade had just like run up and stabbed him with it. It's a complete nothing. It makes no difference that he doesn't know what it is. And so I thought the reason he didn't know and he was confused as to what it was and he thought it was a good thing would be that he would use it on himself and then blow himself up. And it would be like a come-up-its arrogance thing. And instead it's just like Blade just throws it at him like it was a bomb. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
I see what you're saying. And I mean, you're right. It doesn't matter that he doesn't know. I mean, I disagree that it matters that he doesn't know what it is. But I understand what you're saying where like it doesn't affect anything because it ultimately doesn't do anything until it's consciously done at the end. But like I said, I actually thought it was effective when he was kind of taunting it to Blade. And I was fine with like the reason he doesn't know is for that little moment of just like, ooh, will he like, is he gonna kind of screw himself up in an arrogance thing? And then he doesn't. And I was fine with that.
How did it get caught? Maybe we saw it fall at some point or something. How did it get caught in that part of the wall?
Frost throws it off.
I remember Frost throwing it. We never see where
we
it
never
lands.
hear anything. That's just where it landed.
That's the stupidest thing.
Is that the stupidest thing? Or is the stupidest thing?
The stupidest thing is the car chase with the cop. Where they
so
drive
cool.
at normal traffic-obeying speeds, but speed up the footage. It's so stupid. It is so dumb.
It's
It
the
is
worst.
awful.
It's only it's laughably
so
bad.
dumb. It is so, again, where the movie is like aggressively badass.
This is gonna be so cool. It's gonna be on like high speed. It's a high speed chase. We're gonna speed up the footage, and it just looks so bad.
How about how many times nobody seems to care about anything Blade does? Blade pulls out a gun and everyone's
In
like, oh my
broad
gosh,
daylight.
a gun. And then as soon as he puts it away, everyone's like, okay, anyway, back to business.
Blade smashes a cop's face on a car, and the people around him are just like, "What a normal day in Louisiana." Like, speaking of speeding up footage and dumb, remember when Blade grabs the end of a subway car and goes whoop and
I thought
zips
that was
away,
funny.
but then all the vampires are chasing him in fast motion after the train. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Speaking of one of the many scenes where Blade does something in broad daylight and no one bats an eye. No one even bats an eye at the fact that he's always in his full leather jacket and all of his stupid gear and his bulletproof vest and a sword on his back, and no one bats an eye at him.
I don't know. If you saw that guy on like a subway, you'd just be like, he's just a cosplayer.
I feel like people would at least, like, no one even looks at him, though.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
it's
the
just a
thing. It's
normal
like,
thing.
no one even looks at him.
People cosplay.
And then when Deacon is standing there with the girl in Chinatown or whatever, and then
everyone's
Blade's
just like,
I don't
this
even...
is a thing that happens all the time. Just go into
Well,
my
and then
job.
Blade is like, I don't even care about that girl. And then Deacon chucks her, and I
How
thought,
about when he throws
it's fucking hysterical.
And then the bus wasn't even going to stop. The bus didn't even put on the brakes.
It's so weird. It's not that I want Blade to let a child die,
I
but
thought you were going
part
to
of
say
me
it's
was
not that I
more...
want blood. It's not.
It was more interesting to me when Blade was like, I don't care. Like, I care about killing you. And I was like, okay, I understand where Blade stands, and he's an anti-hero. And I don't have to necessarily like that as a characteristic for a...
See, it's funny. I took that as just like a bluff and just like...
Oh, it was a bluff. But it was a weird bluff where I was just like, what does it gain other than Deacon getting away? But Blade still shoots after him, and he waits a while to go get the girl and everything. Where I was thinking like, oh, Blade doesn't care. Like, he would save that girl if he had the opportunity.
You like watched the better movie and then complained when it was the worst movie. And I like watched the worst movie just up front.
What do you mean?
Because you're like the same thing with Frost and the explodey blue liquid, and you're like, oh, like, it doesn't matter that he doesn't know what it is. And it's like, oh yeah, like, I understand that, like, that would be a better thing for him to even just use it on his, like, goofy goon who gets his arms chopped off and stuff. Like, that's better. And so you watch that and you're like, oh, but he didn't do anything with it. Yeah, but like, I was fine with this one little thing. I just kind of took it at face value. And then here you're like, oh, like, I liked how, like, Blade is, like, the anti-hero, and, like, he doesn't, like, he just cares about killing vampires. And I'm like, no, I just kind of took it as a bluff. And, like, I understand that yours is the better movie, because it has better characterization, it has better crap.
And yours is the correct one. It was a bluff.
That's what I mean, where I'm just like, you're watching, like, the better movie, and then realizing that it's not, and I just, like, cut to the chase, and was like, I'm just gonna watch this bad, stupid movie.
Like, I didn't think Blade was
going to murder a child.
Not going to save the girl,
Yeah.
but I did think Blade was going to, like, when Blade opens fire on him, I was like, oh, Blade doesn't care. And that girl's just going to be okay. Or maybe he'll, like, save her at the last moment. But, like, I thought it was going to be, like, Deacon gets away, and then he's like, all right, now I'm going to save this girl because I don't...
What else
Deacon's
am I
already
gonna
gone.
do?
What else am I
Yeah.
going to do? As opposed to, like, I was in the moment, I was like, Blade would let this girl die to kill Deacon. Deacon's the bigger problem. And I was like, I don't necessarily agree with him, but, like, that's interesting to me for the protagonist of this movie. Especially because he is so, like, kind of nothing in this movie. He doesn't really have a personality.
Right. Badass is his personality.
He saves Karen, and then...
For no reason.
Because
Because it looks like his mom,
why?
I guess?
Yeah, and Whistler's like, why? And he's like, I don't know. I did.
Because we
needed
needed a person on the outside so that we could deliver our dialogue.
Explain everything, yeah. And it's weird because, like, it's not like they don't seem to have a romance plot, which is good. I mean, I can't remember. Does it end with them? No, because he just, like, leaves her. I don't remember. It doesn't matter, but there's not really a romance plot. It's not like, she's just kind of there, like you said, she's there to be the
exposition
dumpy.
Speaking of romance plot, can we talk about when Frost and his supermodel girlfriend burn up that dude in the sunrise, and they just wear motorcycle outfits?
Biker helmets?
And, well, they put on sunscreen.
I was very confused how that worked with them. I couldn't tell
it's
if
magic.
Maybe Half-Bloods were more, or not Half-Bloods, but, like, turned vampires as opposed to pure vampires were more resistant, because he's standing there with them and he's like, oh, you've never seen the sun because you're a pureblood. And I was like, okay, so like, are you resistant to the sun, or can you be in the sun a little longer?
That was more, again, I don't know, maybe not, but that...
Are you a daywalker like Blade? And I was just confused and thought Blade was the only one, but he's not.
No, he says that he saw the sunrises before he was turned.
Oh.
Yeah, if you watch the movie, they tell you the things. Anyways, so they put on motorcycle helmets, and then they hold hands. Watch this dude blow up in the sun.
I like how he's like, if you put on sunscreen, then you're okay in the sun. And I was like, what?
He puts on sunscreen and a motorcycle helmet. How about when they just lower their motorcycle? Especially since we don't see him put on.
How about how quickly that sun comes up? That sun comes up and it like ignites the world in flame. But like when he's in Chinatown, he's just standing there and he takes off his sunglasses.
It's only the sun. And like at first, the sunrise and sunset. That's the worst.
I was like, if he has sunglasses on, is he like more resistant? Is it because there are trees around and he's like slightly shaded and it just doesn't look like it? And then Blade's like, you're wearing sunblock, and I was like, okay. Well, I mean, if they can just put on sunblock, then what's the big deal? Like, I understand why, like, Blade is the golden ideal, and if you could get to be like Blade, that would be the best alternative, but it's like, if you could just put on sunblock, like, is it really that bad? Especially because early on, when Deacon's with all the old vampires, and they're like, you don't understand our ways, and he's like, we should be ruling them. We're gods among them. And I was like, okay, but you're only, like, effective a couple hours out of the day, because...
Not when they wear sunblock.
When the sun is out, like, you'll fry. So, like, can you really, like, uprise against the humans? They have a huge advantage over you. Like, you guys are not completely immortal. And then... when he was like standing there in the sun, I was like, wait, can he walk in the sun? It was very confusing. And it felt like each scene I would like, a couple scenes later, I would get information. I'd be like, oh, that's what was happening there. That's why.
Off the record, because I don't know where else this belongs. But like, what if a vampire was black? And he just doesn't have I mean, they can be sunburnt, but like, they have a better...
a single black vampire that is not Blade or his mom?
Do we see a single black person that is not Blade or his mom or... Karen?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And I was reading that Karen was originally going to be white until Wesley Snipes was like, why don't we make her black? That would be cool. And I was like, that would be cool. Good job. But like, I don't know. I it's so dumb. And it doesn't help that when Frost is talking to like the old guard and they're like, you're half-blood, you don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, we rule humans. I'm going to make blood god and turn everybody into vampires. And I was like, and then what? What's the end goal? You made everybody vampires. You can't feed off of vampires, I don't think.
They say that like, so it goes into a couple things where like they have familiars, but they're not like magically entranced familiars because these vampires don't seem to have any of that hypnotic power.
They're just like scared familiars.
Not even really scared. They just want to be vampires, and so they're hoping that if they do good, they'll be vampire, right? You'll make me vampire if I do good. If I do good job.
Yeah.
But like then at the end, Karen's ex-boyfriend from the beginning of the movie, when he got bit at the beginning, I was like, he's going to be like one of the main antagonists. And then he disappeared and I forgot all about him until they threw him in a pit with her. Or threw her into a pit with him.
In a pit with him.
And then they're like, some vampire, sometimes when you get bit, they just like turn into a zombie. And that's weird, huh? Happens every once in a while. Anyway, here's him. And then she just like kicks him in the head and leaves. And I was like, what is the point of like this like hierarchy where it doesn't matter? It was just like someone was like, here's another thing I know about vampires. Or here's like another thing we can do with the vampires. But it doesn't matter. It's just like a thing. And honestly, I don't even know if that was like, what happens if the blood biting a vampire goes wrong? I don't know if that was the decision so much as like, we want to have her locked in a room with a vampire. So what if we like throw her in a pit and she has to escape from him? Why would there be a vampire in the pit? Well, sometimes the vampires become like feral monsters that eat other vampires.
Because it's badass. That's why.
You know what was not badass?
Let me guess. Not badass. In this 2-hour badass-a-thon? What about all the gross old men looking at teenage women serving them drinks?
Even worse. It was when Blade's mom is like...
kissing him? Yeah. I didn't like that.
Comfortably incestuous with him. That was fucking weird. That was someone's fetish, and I did not care for it.
It was uncomfortable.
It was especially... I don't know which was worse. Both are bad. If she had kissed him, or the fact that she just like lingers in front of him is weirdly more sexual. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I hate this. And like when she didn't kiss him, I didn't want her to kiss him, but the fact that she like just hovered over him was even more like sexually uncomfortable and gross.
What was worse?
And I just...
that, or when Frost kills Krieger, whatever his name was, and then makes out with that other woman with blood-covered face.
That was gross, but that
wasn't incestuous gross.
That was a vampire thing.
Here's a fun story. So at the beginning when the guy gets burned, and then Blade is fighting people in the hospital, and the guy who's a goofy man, I don't know his name, but he gets his hands cut off, and he has long hair. And I thought that Frost would kill him because he's like obnoxious.
I kept thinking Frost always like stares at him, and I was like, one of these days, like Frost, I thought he was going to push him into the thing where they say like, sometimes these vampires eat other vampires. I thought he was going to push him in there.
Again, give him the blue blow-up serum. But anyways.
Blowy syrup.
Apparently, when filming, he like landed on his face and dislocated his jaw, and then they had to take him to a real hospital, not like a fake movie hospital. But the guy who was in like burn outfit also went, and they just like ran into this hospital with one guy in full burn makeup and was just like, "Hey, my friend here has a broken jaw," and everyone was just like, "You are also like super charred." So I mentioned this a lot, and so it wasn't a surprise, I assume. But now we can talk about it on both ends. But isn't it weird that they give Whistler cancer? He doesn't have it in like the whole movie, and then in one scene he's just like, I have cancer.
Yes.
And then the next time you see him, they're like, let's kill him. Why even bother giving him cancer? Just let him have a nice life. He already has a limp. Like, why do we have to give him cancer?
It's so bizarre. I wonder if that's from like an earlier draft where
it mattered.
He was going to die of cancer and it was supposed to be this touching, like, you gotta let me go. Or maybe like, you know, maybe they were trying to figure out his daywalker stuff to cure him of his cancer, where it's like, if we can make you like me, then we'll cure you of your cancer.
Then your cancer
but then someone, like, multiple rewrites happened, but they still had this touching scene where they talked about how much he cares about Whistler and he's also got cancer.
I mean, I guess that's the only, like, no, you don't need to give him cancer to have, like, Karen be like, so why are you with Whistler? Like, what's your guys' deal? But, like, I also think it's too easy to write a vampire movie where the mentor gets bitten and you have to be like, just kill me. Instead of being like, I have cancer. He doesn't even get bitten. Yeah, he does.
Deacon specifically says he's not going to bite him. And then he asks for Blade's gun, but I don't think he was bitten because I thought the whole thing was they just, like, mortally wounded him.
I think you're correct. But also reading trivia stuff, apparently Whistler was going to be the vampire in Moscow at the end, which would have been kind of cool. But I think he did bite him. But how about also...
He probably was bitten, but I just remember Deacon specifically saying, like, I'm not going to bite you. And I was like, yeah, okay. But also, he's also the one who's like, hey, if you feel like you're getting thirsty, no matter how much you drink, or like sunlight starts to hurt, buy a gun and shoot yourself. And so, like, it makes sense for Whistler to be like, yeah, I'm a vampire, fucking let me end my own life.
Yeah, but also in trivia, and of that scene, it said that Wesley Snipes could not stop laughing when he had his little piece of gauze and was gently dabbing at Whistler's blood-covered body with his tiny little piece of gauze. What is he doing? What is he doing? There's this much blood. He got a tiny 1 by 1 centimeter piece of gauze. I liked Whistler, though. I like Northern Turn. What's his name?
I liked when I like when they go to the like underground place underneath a bar that I thought was also full of vampires, but apparently it's not.
Which place?
The vampire bars. So when they go to...
Yeah, the place with all the weird men looking at underage women.
Yeah. And I thought they were all vampires, but they weren't. Nobody seems to care that Blade like pulls out guns.
I was wondering that too until I realized that that's just like where they just like hid in the back.
But I also like how that freezer is not even like a hidden door. It is just like you open that and that is a staircase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why not just... At least the first club had like the illusion of a freezer and you had to look for it.
But anyway, when they go down and they're like in that room with all the pages from the book, and then they get into a fight and all that crap, but then Blade's like, I'm not the only one coming. And then it like zooms in on his earpiece, and then Whistler just like bursts in and starts firing on everyone. Hysterical.
Whistler was fun. Apparently he was introduced in a Spider-Man cartoon.
Yeah, I think I remember him being in that.
And then like, that's a good Blade thing. But I thought he was good.
He's fun.
He's like not Kurt Russell a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he has like a fun gruff voice. And when they go into the subway and he's just like, I need a wheelchair. And then he like, I don't know, gets sucked away by the subway. And everyone's just like, he's fine. We'll meet him back at the hideout.
No, he like goes down into like a sewer tunnel or something.
Oh, did he?
There's a thing where before they jump on the back of the train, Karen like sees... You see, like, there's like a...
I thought that was before it, because, like, the explosion, he throws
the bomb. There's, like, some kind of hole, and you see his leg, like, going down in it.
Okay, I just saw, like, the explosion, and, like, stuff happened, and he's like, I need a wheelchair, and then he, like, ceased to exist in that scene.
How about how stupid all lines Blade says are?
Except for the skating uphill. Motherfuckers like
Some
to
of them
skate
are
uphill.
hilariously stupid. Possibly better than some motherfuckers try to ice skate uphill. Is I really liked at the end when Deacon, like, blood forms himself back together, and then it just turns to Blade and he mouths, "What the fuck?"
It's not even, it's not even like 80 art or anything. It's just, what the fuck?
I thought that was funny. But when they're talking about Whistler, and she's like, you know, do you really care about him or something? He's like, we have a good arrangement. He makes the weapons. I use them. And I was like, that's fucking stupid. That is such a dumb badass line.
That's that fine line between is a cheesy action one-liner comedy or action?
I didn't understand. We're just jumping all. I didn't understand the spell at the end where the ceremony.
But
where
they had to
have
lightning
like,
bolt
get all
people.
Well, they had to get all the elders together, and they're like, put them on the markings, make sure it's perfect. But then, like, one guy is like, "You're an idiot. You're all gonna die with us." And then she just, like, cuts him, and he, like, it turns to dust. And I was like, doesn't he need to be there? Didn't they all need to stand on the things? Didn't it need to be perfect? And I thought they were going to, like, summon the blood god, and it was going to be, like, I don't know, Dracula, and he was going to be a big bat monster that flew around. But instead, Deacon's just like, now I'm a blood man.
You didn't like when all the CGI blood skeleton
That
bats
is one of my put-ups.
crawled
Loved
out of
it.
the
Loved the terrible, terrible CGI of the skeleton bat ghosts.
crawling out of mouths.
They crawl out of their own skulls, and then the old skulls, like, in their skeletons burst, and then they fly around, and then they, like, fly through Deacon a bunch. That's great. Love that shit. If that was the whole movie, loved it.
Oh boy.
I need more stupid bullshit like that.
But like I don't understand.
Explain that science to me, Dr. Lady.
Yeah, where are you on that? They're biconclave hemoglobin.
How about when they have her in the penthouse and she's like, you gonna bite me? Do it. I don't care. I'll just cure myself again. And I was like, yeah, you did, like, literally just make a cure that absolutely 100% works. What is that?
Well, she's smart. She's a smart cookie. So again, at the beginning, vampires die by, like, disintegrating immediately. But then that stops being a thing. And then they get the blue blow up serum and they, like, goofily blow up. And then
I did like the two guards at the beginning when he injects their heads and they just, like, swell up.
And then make
I thought
blood
that was
geysers.
fun.
That's good stuff.
I didn't like the giant, what's the name, Pearl? The giant, like, information vampire. I thought it was gross looking, which is fine. That's what it was there for. But it also wasn't that interesting. I thought they were going to do something with it, and instead they just, like, keep shining the flashlight on it in the only scene that I think ever uses it.
Yeah, because it gets destroyed after that.
But it just, like, burns him. And I was like, that's fine.
It's fine if it burns him. It also did that thing where she, like, burns him and Wesley Snipes was like, what the fuck? And Karen's like, he moved. How about when he handed Whistler the old scripture of the Bible, the vampire Bible, and Whistler
he's
reads
like, this is written in blood.
He's like, this is written in blood, and I read it, and here's how it reads, but, like, it's only a little bit. And then Wesley Snipes is just like, also, here's a floppy disk. You could have just used this.
How about when Deacon is, like, sitting in the archives listening to his cool 90s
grunge metal
rave music, and
rave music is more correct.
Yeah, it's like some weird EDM.
It's the same track from the club.
The old guy is like, it's a dead language, you can't translate it. And then they show the program that's translating. I was like, it's doing a pretty good job. There are full paragraphs there.
How about when they said that there's, like, this ancient blood god room that everyone just conveniently forgot about? Like, I mean, that's Louisiana. That's, like, not that old. It's not like something, we're not in, like, Transylvania, and this is, like, the origin of the vampire god, and it was created in, like, 4 billion BC. It's like, it's in the U.S. It can't be that old. That everyone just like, I forgot about this giant blood god room.
Giant blood god room with, like, a button that... How about when they put Blade into the Iron Maiden thing, they have to, like, push the door open, but then later on when his mom finishes sexing him up, she, like, just presses a button and it closes on him.
I like how technologically advanced it is until they need to, like, use belt loops to strap him in. I also like late 90s computer programs and the terrible CGI that create them. Every time they show the Blood God plan, I didn't understand it. I don't know what that CGI program is supposed to tell me, because it didn't.
Oh, I guess I understood that they needed to, like, stand in a circle with someone in the center because it was, like, weird human-shaped things with different symbols.
And then blood drops, and then lightning goes, and then Blood God.
It's so fucking stupid.
Apparently, the original ending was an 8-foot-tall Blood God monster. And then everyone said, bring back Frost. He was cool. Also, I have zero interest in watching Blade fight a CGI blood gusher. I think one of the trivia things said squiggle.
I like how when Blade keeps cutting at Frost.
And he cuts him in half and then he just like forms back.
But like Blade is just like, that didn't work. I guess I'll try again. Which I guess he didn't really have any other options at the time, but it was just something where he seemed so baffled each time that like he stabbed Frost and Frost was like, doesn't bother me. And he's like, what? And then he tries again and he's like, yeah, it really doesn't. What are you not getting here? And he's like, this is absurd.
Yeah, Deacon's End was changed and revamped from draft to draft, but it eventually came back around to what David S. Goyer had written in his first draft. One ending that was proposed involved the vampire's contraption working and leading to a vampire apocalypse of them taking over the planet. The sequel would have then taken a Mad Max-like tone as Blade and others bring the fight to them across an apocalyptic wasteland. Another ending involved Deacon being turned into a vortex of CG blood, the vampire god. But preview audiences were uninterested in watching Blade fight against an animated squiggle, which is fair. Also, how sweet does sequel apocalyptic Mad Max vampire Blade sound?
It does sound kind of fun. That's what the Resident Evil movies do. They just keep going more and more insane.
I like when movies like villains win, and it's like, oh, this is different. But in this one, the hero won. How about the coincidence that Blade just happened to be the Daywalker, that just happened to be the
I forgot about the
vampire
whole,
blood.
When they're like, you're the chosen one, I was like, fuck this. I hate that. That's stupid.
There's one of them in existence, and you're the chosen one, and I bit your mom to make you the chosen one, and your mom told me that you were the chosen one, but I don't know how she knows you and how you know her.
So stupid.
It is stupid.
Anything else? It's kind of...
Morbius was supposed to be in it. At the end,
As a vampire that he killed?
No, he was supposed to be just like a little post-credit scene. Well, this wasn't like 2008, so post-credit scenes didn't exist, but he was supposed to watch Blade kill a vampire in Moscow. But then they're like, oh wait, Spider-Man owns Morbius. What do you think Blade would do? Blade would kill him. Blade doesn't kill undead things, he kills vampires, living or dead.
He is the living vampire.
But he's still a vampire.
How about when they weren't allowed to have undead creatures with the comics code, so Blade was called the living vampire, and then when they made him on the Spider-Man cartoon
Blade or
show,
Morbius?
Morbius, they gave him suction cup fingers that he sucked plasma instead of blood out of people.
Living vampires, what I love about comics. That's so dumb.
It's just like finding that special little loophole.
Do you remember when all the CG skeleton winged monsters crawled out of people's faces, mouths?
I do, because we talked about it.
I know, that was the joke.
Oh, I gotcha. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
No, I think I'm good.
Seth, give me 2 put-ups and a put-down.
I think we're probably going to be really close on these, because I also really loved the skeleton winged monsters ghosts crawling out of the face holes was brilliant. And it didn't matter. They didn't attack Blade. I don't even think they really attacked Frost.
I couldn't tell what they were doing in the Frost. They just kept flying through them, and I was like, so they're humanoid skeleton, batwing
ghosts,
skeletons within other people's skeletons that are also ghosts.
Why not? Comics code doesn't
Because my favorite part is not when they like burst out of people's mouths, but when they burst out of people's skulls.
Yeah. Comics code doesn't exist anymore. How nice was it to watch a 2-hour rated R superhero movie? That's what we've been wanting forever. Even Batman wasn't R. I didn't get to hear people say fuck a bunch to prove that this is a grown-up movie for grown-ups and not a comic book movie for babies. But anyways, that's my first put-up. My second put-up is the fight was fine, but I was just really impressed with the club scene where I was just like, Blade's the guy in the black trench coat. The bad guys are the people covered in blood and are red. But then, like I said, I didn't like when after that, like, cops showed up or whatever and they were in black. Which, I mean, it made sense, but it was just like, then he had to fight a bunch of people that were in black and it went against it.
It wasn't even cops. It was just like more guards show up.
Guards that didn't get covered in blood. My put down is going to be, I don't know the moment, but it does really slow down. Again, I think it was around when Whistler died, which wasn't necessarily like a bad scene or anything. It was just, I started kind of, I don't know. I'll actually say it starts to turn into a bunch of guns shooting. There's some wire foo stuff that's fun. There's some sword stuff that's fun. But there's also a lot of just like submachine guns shooting. And that gets on my nerves, as people are aware after sitting through 2 Suicide Squad movies. So there we go. How about you?
My first put up is going to be also the skeleton ghost vampire.
It can't not be.
Monsters bursting out of people's CGI skulls and flying around.
Can't
so
not
stupid.
be.
I kind of love it. It's great. My second put up is going to be, I can't choose specifically one, so I'm going to say it's a tie between some motherfuckers trying ice skate uphill and when he mouths what the fuck.
Apparently, some motherfuckers trying ice skate uphill was just kind of like something Wesley Snipes said. And then they're like, oh, that's going in the movie.
It is like so nonsensically stupid and trying to be badass that I kind of loved it.
It's dumb.
My put down is going to be when his mom
Sexes him up.
Sexes him up. That is fucking gross.
I mean, it's gross to you. It's just not our cup of tea. People have... we're not here to fetish shame.
Oh, I am.
It's uncomfortable. It's real uncomfortable.
It's fucking weird. Especially like when she comes out of the bed and everything and is staring at him early on. I was like, she's like weirdly sexual, but I think that's
just who she is.
No, I was just like, I think that might be on me. Like maybe I'm just like assuming this is gross when it's not, and it's just the fact that they're like, she like kind of like stares at him in a way that's like tender, but I was like, she is his mom, and I think it's just weird because they're the same age. And I think I am projecting like gross stuff onto this, but then later on
she like breathed in his mouth.
Like, well, then when she like cuts off his shirt, I was like, this is weirdly sexual, but again, I don't know, she's doing this ritual thing, his shirt needs to be off.
Hey, remember when...
But then she like goes up against him and she's just like, bleh. I was like, I hate this. This is so fucking
You know what we didn't talk about? There's no love subplot, but remember when Wesley Snipes has to like hump Karen's body for blood?
Yes. Yes.
Do you think?
And then she's like, don't stop.
I thought she was saying stop. I thought she was not giving consent.
Oh, I had subtitles on because she says don't stop.
Because you watched Wesley Snipes say what the fuck, but you didn't hear any words, and you're like, what else have I been missing?
It cuts to all the other vampires with the lightning going on, and then it says like Karen moaning, and she's going like, ah! And I was like, I don't like this either. This is weird. Seth, where do you put this in your total ranking of every movie?
I threw a dart at a board, and I put it at number 23, in between the Spider-Men. Because, fuck it, why not? I guess I like it more than the first Spider-Man and less than Spider-Man 2. It's, like, so hard to put these in any logical sense anymore. Like, unless it's really good or it's, like, really bad, I'm just like, I don't know. Did I like this worse than the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Like, I hated a lot of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and it was like 6 hours.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, like, part of me is like, I guess I would probably put it above Falcon and the Winter Soldier just because it's not as long, and it does have, like, it was not a slog to watch until the end when I was ready for it to be over, and that was more on me than the movie. It's actually not bad.
I think there could have been another cut.
It's weird where I put it. I put it at number 26. Below Iron Man and above Spider-Man 3. And I did that, honestly, I would have put it probably above Falcon and Winter Soldier. I don't know why I have that so high. But I would watch Iron Man over this. I think Iron Man is just a more enjoyable movie overall. This is just kind of like I said, it's just straight action stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. But it is exactly that. There's not really much of a plot. There's not much of a character.
He almost sexes his mom.
Yeah. Oh yeah, let me drop that lower.
Another point for that. And
so
another point for humping blood.
It probably should go below Spider-Man 3 because Spider-Man 3 does not hump
blood.
Aunt May.
Thanks for hanging out with us. If you like this, tell a friend. If you didn't, then lie to a friend. Check us out on Twitter at SoHowAbout. You can find me on Twitter at SethKumpf. You can find Andrew on Twitter at TessuDownist. And subscribe to us on YouTube at So How About.
And join us next time when we do this once more with interference.
Watcher.
Seth, now
Andrew, I am really glad you asked. We're gonna be we're not even putting up a poll because we're gonna watch Blade 2. Electric Boogaloo, where they Mad Max.
I didn't know we were going to go straight into Blade 2.
I don't know. What else we like?
Oh, it's fine by me. I just didn't know that's what we were doing.
Did you? Good thing it's not. We're going to be watching Moon Knight because Marvel is back, baby. We got 6 weeks of Moon Knight. I call it my moon plight. And then after that, we're going to get into Doctor Strange. I call it Multiverse of Madness because this is fucking madness. And we just keep going. And then after that, I think we're going to watch Blade 2. And then Blade Trinity. And then Morbus Trinity. And then another Marvel thing.
Morbus?
Yeah. The Living Trinity.
I'm Morbus, the living vampire.
Vampire. I don't like the term vampire. I don't know why. It's like cool, dumb, but the other way. Dumb, cool. No, cool, dumb is better. It feels like a fake term, which I guess it is, but like, it's like wampire. Like, I know that's like origin stuff, but it's just like fake history bullcrap in a vamp. I don't know.